I remember my mother telling me that my head teacher, who was a very fine gentleman in Vienna, had asked her once to come and see him. He was involved in a political party, in a democratic Austrian political Christian democratic party, and he told my mother that things would become much worse for the Jews, and advised her to try and leave the country. And I remember how shaken she was when she came home. But I cannot say it made much impression on me or my brother.
The limitations started, and we weren't allowed to do this, that, and the other, and there was a curfew, and there was this, but it's still, well, you weren't allowed to do various things, but one could live. And then you weren't allowed to travel in the tram in the first car, you had to go into the second car, and you weren't allowed to sit on the park benches on some of them, and some of them you were allowed. You weren't allowed to go to the cinema and to the theatre. It got worse and worse, but it started, I mean, as you get used to everything in life, so you got used to that as well, as it wasn't sudden, the change.
We were playing and we were going to school with the Christian boys and girls, but when the thing started, then they just turned around, and I couldn't go out on the street without being beaten from the very same person and persons who I used to play ping pong with, for instance. They were brainwashed. The parents, actually, they never been what you call Jew lovers, but they would make an exception because we were not that many Jews there. But when Hitler came to power, and the soldiers, Hitler soldiers came in, so they poisoned everybody's mind over there.
In
Vienna, I went to two schools during the Nazi period after 1938. First to the school in the Hakengasse and then in the Meiselgasse. But the schools, it's important to emphasize that, the schools, the teachers, were the ones who sifted people out. The teachers told social services who was good or bad, and social services decided what should be done with the child. They decided whether the child was a criminal or whether it belonged to the so-called National Socialist People's Community.